the Snow Only Property Podcast. Brought to you by Snow Only, the world's largest ski property platform. The only dedicated ski property podcast. Welcome to episode 6 of the Snow Only Property Podcast. We are delighted here today to have Alex, who is Senior Advisor for Athena Advisors. Alex, welcome to the Snow Only Property Podcast.
Hi, Mark.
So what we're going to do today, we'll go through a nice series of questions for you. I'm sure anyone that's listening would love to hear your answers. So I think we just kind of start off nice and easy. And if you just give us a bit of an introduction about yourself and about your company and what you specialize in.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. We are Athena Advisors, headquartered in London. We have satellite offices in the areas that we work in. So that's predominantly France and Portugal. And I guess our real focus is working with developers on new build projects and really creating a sort of a one-stop shop. So this is for clients buying into both France and Portugal, and giving all the necessary advice that's required, whether it be the right projects, the right locations, working with the right banks. We have an in-house finance team and also a client relations team that deal with all the contracts, and it's something that we've been doing for over 15 years. And so, it seems to be working pretty well so far.
As we said pre-recording, you said you were advisors and not salespeople, which is obviously very important. So you guys kind of have the knowledge, right? So you people calling you up just to get advice, predominantly on ski properties, and you have the experience, right?
Yeah, that's right, Mark. I mean, We're a team that's obviously, as I said, headquartered in London. Most of the time, a client will come to us with a specific requirement, whether it be buying into Paris or buying into the French Alps or buying in Portugal. I would say that probably bulk of our revenue comes from the French Alps, and that's really where we started. And it's just listening to what the requirements are, and we're not tied to any particular resort or any particular project. We're really there to listen to what the client wants and what they want to get out of the purchase, whether it be an investment, whether it be a mixture of an investment and lifestyle purchase, and obviously depending on their budget and the number of bedrooms they're looking for and the type of resort that they want to be in. It's up to us to find them and put them into contact with the right projects and the right resort.
That's really interesting, Alex. So as you said, predominantly, we'll move on to that in a second, but predominantly you deal with new builds and not resales, right?
Correct.
So if someone was going to come to you and basically say, I'm after this criteria of property, but in any particular location, you will then go and find the property in that location? Yeah.
I mean, it's, as I said before, we're not tied to any particular projects. I would say that within, let's take a ski resort, for example, there are at any given time, a certain number of projects that are being built. For the most part, we will have contacts with those developers that are building them. And then it's a question of, finding the right ones, making a short list. And then, we also have Charles-Antoine, who's based in our Annecy office, and he will meet our clients on the ground. And this is something that's very, very useful for people to do, is actually when you are buying off plan, is to actually go to the location and see it for yourself and meet Charles-Antoine, again, who's extremely experienced in that regard. COVID has meant that this has shifted somewhat, and we're extremely surprised to see that a lot of our sales now are being done remotely. So this is a video call with Charles on site in a resort, selling a project to someone in another part of the world, and over 70% of our sales last year were done in this way.
That's incredible. Great.
Which is actually, it's incredible to see how we've adapted and how the market has adapted, and also how the clients have adapted, because clients are now happy if they know the resort well and they know what they're looking for. It's quite easy for them to make a decision on that basis, and we're very surprised at how well it's worked.
Again, do you find predominantly that people will always buy in resorts that they are familiar with?
It's actually a big mixture, really. I mean, you will have clients that will want to buy in one resort, It obviously makes it easier, I would say, because they're already quite focused. And in that and in that sense, it's easy for them for us to point them in the right direction, depending on what they're looking for. You will get other clients who have a budget and they want us to suggest to them the potential resorts that might be interesting for them to look at. And again, that's something that we can do. And then, yeah, so it's really, you get all types of clients, and that's and we're very used to dealing with that.
What we kind of touched on a bit before was the new builds. I'm kind of interested to just go down there for a bit. So you only deal with new builds, right? So explain a little bit why you do that and why you don't do resales. What are the advantages that you think for a buyer for a new build property?
Yeah, I think maybe unlike other areas outside of the French Alps, new builds are a really good fit for alpine property. The types of materials that are being used at the moment, whether it be sort of wood and stone, and the new builds that are being built at this point of time are often a lot nicer than, I would say, the existing stock. So straight away, when you're looking at new builds, for example, on the coast in south of France, or new builds in Paris, it's not really comparable because they're probably not as desirable, I would say. Whereas in the French Alps, for sure, new builds really hold their own. Also, there are advantages to buying new builds in the sense that they're desirable. So from a rental perspective, it's interesting, and the yields can be more attractive in that sense. And definitely to rent these properties will be easier because of the way they look and the way they present. Also from being able to sort of influence the layout. So if you get in early on a project and you're looking at floor plans, you can already discuss with the developer as to how you want the layout to be, and also the interior finishes and that kind of thing. So again, you can really tailor it to what you're looking for and make it more personal to you. There are also guarantees on the build. So French law means that there's something called the garantie décennale, and that's a 10-year guarantee on all exterior elements of the building. So which is obviously nice from a purchase point of view, that if anything goes wrong, then you're covered. With regards rental, if you are actively looking to rent your property, there is the ability to reclaim the VAT of the purchase price.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll discuss that in a second.
I'm sorry, one more point. It's also cheaper purchase price to buy a new build. So your equivalent of stamp duty, which on a resale will be between sort of 7 or 8%. On a new build will be maximum to normally between 1.5% and 2%.
Wow, that's quite a saving. Huh? I'm interested in kind of the evolution of new builds in terms of kind of meeting demand. Is it essential now that everyone has a gym, a pool, a spa, all that kind of stuff? What's the kind of next fad that's going to come now that will meet the demand?
Hot tubs are very popular.
Yeah, I bet.
No, actually, people love facilities for sure, and we do have projects that have gyms and spas and swimming pools. The one thing I would say is that the co-ownership charges, which are like service charges, tend to be higher with those types of projects. It is a bit of a balancing act in the sense that you have some clients that are willing to pay those high service charges in order to get those facilities. However, you get others that are maybe less inclined to want to go down that road. Especially French clients, I would say, they don't really like high service charges. So what we sometimes say to clients is, look, even if there aren't the sort of facilities like a swimming pool, if you do have, like, say, like a swimming center within the resort or a gym in the resort, it's sometimes also good to just kind of look along those lines rather than having to pay those high service charges. What we are also seeing, though, is quite often at the higher end of the scale in terms of budget, saunas and hammams and that kind of thing that are being put into apartments, so actually built into the apartments. And then obviously high on the wish lists are things like fireplaces, hot tubs on the balconies.
Yeah. Do you think that actually has an effect on sales when you add on all those kind of things?
In terms of what sales, in terms of
well, I mean, I guess is it easier to sell a property with all those things included?
Yeah, for sure. I think from a rental point of view, it makes a big difference.
Okay.
And I have read crazy statistics where, when you have a hot tub on your balcony, your rental price can go up by 20%, or, the desirability of your property suddenly becomes a hell of a lot more desirable. But yeah, no, I think new builds that can offer balconies, fireplaces, facilities, parking for sure, indoor parking, like underground parking.
Seems like quite the big one, huh?
Parking is hugely important, and there's very few new build projects now that don't have underground parking. For sure, all those things make it a more desirable property.
But let's cover the 20% rebate, and actually maybe we can do another podcast. We can maybe go into this in a little bit more depth. But for people that kind of don't really understand the 20% rebate on new build properties, can you give us a bit of a summary of kind of the advantages of it?
Yeah, sure. So this was something that was put in place by the French government. Their biggest nightmare is for people to buy apartments or chalets, go there once a week, leave them empty, and therefore there's no one skiing in the resort. There's no one using the restaurants. There's no one buying lift passes, and it's just not a good economic model for them. So what they put in place in order to encourage people to rent their properties is basically the ability to reclaim the VAT off the purchase, which roughly comes out to 16% less the purchase price. This is something that you can do as a buyer if you actively rent your property, and that's basically involves signing a commercial lease with a local management agency and basically putting up your property for rent, and that would be for at least, I would say, 2 months within the winter season and a few weeks in the summer too. This is something that that you have to continue doing for a 20-year period. If for whatever reason, after let's say 10 years, you wanted to stop renting, you would need to pay back pro rata the amount of VAT that you'd saved. So in simple terms, if you'd saved 100 euros in VAT, and you stopped after 10 years, you'd have to pay back 50, and you could keep the remaining 50 because you'd rented for 10 years. Now, we at Athena have a client relations team that handle the whole process. It's fairly complicated to do on your own. I mean, it is possible to do on your own, but it's much easier if you go through someone like us. And actually, if anyone wants more information on exactly the mechanics of how it works, then, I mean, by all means, get in touch with the Athena Advisors client relations team. You can do this via our website, and that's very easy to do, and we can explain in more detail how it works.
Yeah, good advice. So from my point of view, how does this have an effect on resales? I assume there's no issues if they want to resell it. If you're obviously locked into the 20 years of the lease agreement for the rentals, there's no problem. How's it in terms of, because obviously when you're selling it, the idea would be to sell it at a higher price than you bought it for. So how does that affect that moving forward?
So either the person buying it takes on the lease, or if you're reselling it, then if they don't, you have to then pay back pro rata the amount of VAT that you saved. So it's as simple as that, really. And it's really it's something that I would say a lot of our clients obviously look at. It's interesting to do, even if you do think that maybe, let's say, after 5 years you don't want to rent anymore. At least you lock in 5 years of VAT saving. It's up to you really whether you want to do the full 20 years. And I would say the vast majority of our clients rent their properties. There are very few clients that don't rent in the Alps. So it's definitely something that and which kind of goes into the sort of the investment case of buying in the Alps is, I would say, definitely a mixture between investment and lifestyle.
So actually, from that point of view, as you were saying, in terms of COVID before, we kind of touched on it. As that had, we don't really like to deal with it too much, but obviously we all know what's gone on in Europe recently. What kind of effect has that had on the business?
I would say, apart from a slowdown in March, and I forget now when this started. But it seems like a long time now. But was it March 2020? Was that when it started?
March 2019, sadly.
Was it 2019? Okay.
Oh my God, maybe I'm getting my dates wrong.
I think
Let's stick with 2020.
Yeah, I think it was March 2020. So when it all started in March 2020, our feeling was pretty negative when it came to what we were going to do as a business. I mean, obviously setting chalets and apartments in the French Alps and the ability not to travel, our business was it wasn't looking great. Things did slow down, but for a very short period of time, and very quickly after that, as I hinted at before. I mean, the ability for people to adapt and to get used to working via Zoom and also doing visits on video really, really surprised us. And we had, we had a busy 2020 and 2021 has been a record year for us. And I would say that in some instances, COVID, and probably we're not the only business to see this, but has really kind of like boosted our business. Building in the Alps has exploded. The number of projects that are being released is extraordinary. And yeah, I mean, I think maybe people's attitudes at the moment are, look, life's short. I've been thinking about this for a while, and now's the time to move. And we're definitely seeing, a lot of interest, and it's very, very busy. And that's not just, I mean, obviously our bread and butter has been UK clients buying into the French Alps, but now increasingly we're seeing a lot of Dutch, a lot of Scandinavians, and even some US clients, which we've never had before. And we're even seeing US clients interested in buying in the French Alps, which is surprising.
Just for anyone that's listening and thinking that Alex is going on a bit of a sales pitch, I can completely concur with whatever he's saying, because we've seen exactly
even though I'm an advisor, not a salesman.
Yeah. But that's very true. Advisor. We've seen a lot of increase from America actually for the Alps. And the amount of inquiries and page views has kind of gone through the roof. And I think it's, as you said, like the desire for people to be in the mountains has grown so much stronger despite the lack of travel. And the fact that you're saying in terms of 70% of your people have bought through, is it the Matterhorn? Not Matterhorn. Oh, the 3D imaging and they can come.
Oh, yeah. Matterport.
Matterport. Yeah, those 3D images. And yeah, we've seen an incredible amount of demand come. So if there's anything positive to come out of COVID, it's that there's definitely a desire to be in the mountains. That's for sure.
Yes, definitely. And I think that need for space and nature, across the board within the real estate market, everyone's saying it. So obviously the French Alps has benefited from that, but even in London, for example, apartment prices with no balconies and no outside space have suffered. But then, family houses with gardens and that kind of thing, or any outside spaces, and the country market in England is exploding as a result of that too. And also, Mark, just on the remote working bit, I think that's also really going to change things quite a bit when it comes to ski resorts. I already saw that when I was over, I was skiing over Christmas and New Year. The resort that I was in, I think now more and more people are not just going on holiday, but they're either living there or they're spending extended amount of time in the resort. And that's because people can work remotely. So they don't have to necessarily commute back and forth, but they can actually spend 2 or 3 months with their family and live there.
Yeah, I think with skiing in general, for me, there's so many things that the kind of fitness that you have in the mountains that you can do all the time. People are so much on their phones with Instagram and Facebook. Again, a place where you can kind of get away in that, do 8 hours skiing and have relatively low amount of times on your phones, family anchors, just loads of stuff. There's a lot of aspects that are driving people to the mountains at the moment. I think that's such a good thing, obviously for our business and yours, but just on a personal level, I think that's such a good thing. So you kind of touched a little bit on there on UK buyers, but I kind of think we've covered it. I assume before you were heavily reliant on the French Alps for UK buyers, but now that seems to have fundamentally changed then.
Yeah, it's look, our UK clients are still extremely strong buyers in the French Alps, and that's historical. I mean, since we started the business 15 years ago, and with our headquarters in London, the UK element is very, very, very important. I would say that since Brexit, there have been some complications as to UK buyers buying into France, and that's definitely on the finance side of things. So French banks are becoming a little more conservative when it comes to lending money to UK buyers. As I said before, we have an in-house finance team that work with a panel of banks, so it's definitely kept them busy. And I would encourage any of your listeners, if they wanted more information on the finance side of things, then our sister company, French Private Finance, they're very interesting and useful. And Matt, who runs that, is very happy to discuss any questions that your listeners may have. But yeah, no, I mean, English clients, UK clients, still very important. But yes, and you know, obviously from our point of view, French buyers also have been very active, and with very low interest rates at the moment, or borrowing rates historically low. Borrowing money is easy, or is cheap in France. So French buyers have been very active. And you know, we're always looking for new clients, and we're not restricted by territory. So you know, we have partner agents of ours that work in Scandinavia and that work in the Netherlands, and yeah, we're seeing an increased interest from them.
Look, and for anyone that's listening, we'll put all the links attached to SoundCloud and everything for French Private Finance and for Athena Advisors. So you feel free to click on the links, speak to Alex and anyone else that can help. Just kind of segue in a little bit. In terms of opportunity in the French Alps at the moment, where do you kind of see it? Any resorts that are up and coming that you're looking at, or any particular properties that are of interest?
The resort that we've loved for a long time, and in fact we ourselves are starting to develop our own projects in this resort, and that resort is called Châtel. So it's part of the Porte Soleil ski area.
I went skiing was there.
Really? Okay,
yes.
Good. Did you like it?
Yeah, loved it. Actually, first time I'd skied there, really loved it. Yeah, super good.
Yeah, it's a little hidden gem. It's definitely becoming much more popular. When we actively started selling in Châtel around 5 years ago, it really was pretty unknown, and the investment case there has been really strong, because prices per square meter have increased over that time. So the first buyers have done some good deals, and and it ticks all the boxes. You know, it has good views. It's about an hour and 15 minutes from Geneva, so the connectivity time is good. Part of a big ski area. It's retained its sort of alpine, sort of small, like alpine charm. So it's still like a farming village with people that live there year in, year out. So it's not too kind of holiday destination, people coming in just 1 week and leaving, and with no soul. We've already developed a chalet project there, which was a plot of land which consisted of 2 chalets that we built, and we're now working on another project, which is a sort of small collection of apartments, and also semi-chalets and detached chalets. So so that's definitely an interesting one to look at. Another resort that has a lot to offer at the moment in terms of products, so that's in terms of new projects, and again is close to Geneva, and part of the Porte Soleil ski area is Léger. I would say Léger, dual season, so very strong in the summer, a lot going on in the summer with mountain biking and rafting and golf and everything that you could want for the summer. And then obviously the winter as a part of the Porte Soleil ski area, so massive ski area. And there, the interesting thing about Léger also is just the level of choice when it comes to, you know, price range. You know, anything from apartments 300,000 euros to chalets for 6 or 7 million euros. So you have a huge wide range of options. And yeah, I would say it's a good resort to look at the moment.
Do you find that there is increased demand for connectivity to Geneva, considering you're getting more international buyers now?
Yeah. I think connectivity has always been important, and I think also when you speak about connectivity, and also maybe the ability just to go for a long weekend, and that's perfectly doable if you're in a resort that's an hour or 2 hours away from Geneva. It obviously gets more complicated the further you are away. The flip side being is that you get less weekenders going to those resorts, and you just get, you know, so there's always, you know, pros and cons. But for sure, for people that are looking for resorts that are close to Geneva, I would say Châtel and Léger are very good ones to look at. Great ski areas, very pretty, no high rises, and just some interesting projects and some good quality developers that are looking at these resorts and are building within these resorts. So there are some good choices. And then I would say at the higher budget level, so in excess of maybe €1 million, if that's the budget that we're looking at, Meribel is very strong at the moment.
It's funny with Meribel. I've always I kind of always had a love-hate relationship with Meribel. I've been there many times, and it's right in the middle of the valley, isn't it? But everyone loves it. It's got such a strong brand, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's a little bit like I was saying with Châtel. In the summer, it's beautiful because it's not too high up. So you do have trees, you have incredible views. You have the largest ski area in the world, which is the Three Valleys ski area. It's a pretty resort, so it's not as if you're kind of surrounded by high rises. It's chalet style, and the existing buildings, the ones that the old fashioned hotels, 60s style hotels, which aesthetically not actually the best looking, are all being redeveloped and are all being converted into luxury apartments. There's a real kind of boom in terms of building work and action that's happening in Meribel, and that's only a good thing. It's attracting more buyers. There's more investment into the resort, and it's just becoming prettier.
I think there'll always be demand for Meribel. It's such a flagship resort, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's the sort of, I would say, the top tier resorts, in the French Alps are composed of, Val d'Isère, Meribel, Courchevel, possibly Megève, and those are kind of the tier one resorts, and it'll always be desirable. But the prices per square meter reflect that.
Of course,
and they have increased, quite a bit over the years. And
but would you say, if you talk about Les Gets before and Chatel, would you say that Meribel is just more for lifestyle rather than kind of an investment, or where's the angle there? Or do you think there's still appreciation to be had in Meribel, or rental income?
I think, I think yield-wise in the Alps, like you said before, it's a mixture of lifestyle and investment. So the yields are never going to be crazy. They're never going to be 10%, 15% yields buying into a ski resort. So, conservatively speaking, you're looking at between, net of management fees, probably around the sort of 3-4% mark.
But the evolution of dual season has definitely helped that. Before, I remember when I started skiing, there wasn't such a thing.
Yeah, a little bit. But then, the summer season is short. I mean, it's August, maybe a few weeks in July. There are some quite long dead periods between summer and winter, and obviously and spring and summer. So nothing's really going on there. I would say that the yields that I'm giving you there are for winter only. So if you're renting in the summer, which is possible, it's going to be a bonus, not something to count on, in my opinion, yet. Obviously people still, the summer season in resorts is definitely becoming more popular, but it's still, it's still mainly winter. But yeah, in terms of just coming back to a question about, capital appreciation and that kind of thing, in places like Meribel and Val d'Isère, there's a limited amount of space. There's a limited amount of buildings that can be developed, and there's a lot of demand, and there's a lack of supply. And so it follows that, if you don't have enough supply and you have a lot of demand, prices are going to go up. And I can't see myself skiing becoming less popular in the next 10 to 20 years. They can't build another Meribel. So, and likewise, another Les Gets and another Chatel. I mean, these are resorts that for reasons like avalanche risk and that kind of thing can only be so big. I think actually from an investment point of view, it's very strong buying into.
And I also think that there's less. I say less. People will go to the mountains just to be in the mountains rather than they have to ski now. There's so many.
Definitely becoming the case.
So the lifestyle of actually just living in the Alps, you don't have to take your skis, or you might just want to ski when the sky is blue. But there's a demand, I think, now just to be in nature again.
I would agree, and I also think that it's a growing market. I mean, my colleague Charles-Antoine mentioned the other day that I think there was a stat that said something like 9% of people in France ski, which is not a huge amount when you think about it. So it's still quite a niche sport with the ability to grow in terms of the numbers of people that are going to go skiing. So yeah, I think for sure the skiing part can increase, but I think you're right. I think people will want to just be in the mountains, and it's a beautiful place to be. And also that's why, the summer season that we've just had in the French Alps was a record season for them in terms of bookings and people actually going out to the resorts in the summer. And that has definitely been, like you say, as a result of COVID and wanting to be in nature.
Alex, I think that's a great way to end. But before you go, as I ask everyone, I don't know if this budget is enough for you, but if you had, say, 500,000 euros, where would you put it?
At this point of time, given the options available, I would look at Léger. I think it's it's a dual season ski resort. It's part of a big ski area. It's close to Geneva, and there are options at 500,000 euros, and it's extremely popular from a rental point of view. So that's probably where I would look.
For anyone that's listening, if you are interested in Léger or any other place in the French Alps for new build properties, or just asking for some advice, please contact Alex at Athena Advisors. I will put all his details below for you to contact him. Obviously, French Private Finance can help with, again, any financing. You can either get that through Alex, or I put a web link below. But Alex, thank you so much for your time today. I'm sure everyone will find it extremely knowledgeable, and I'm sure they will get in contact with you. But thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mark.
The Snow Only Property Podcast, brought to you by Snow Only, the world's largest ski property platform. Mountains of property at snowonly.com. The Snow Only Property Podcast is produced by Shark 13 Productions.